The story begins when our protagonist Yu is walking down a busy street while looking at his phone. He sees that one of his childhood friends, who's also a singer, has released a new song. He is watching the music video through a showroom window when a commotion is heard. He sees a girl wearing headphones with blue hair running down the road at him in full speed. Unable to react to her sudden appearance, she knocks onto him and they both fall. Yu sees that the girl has a couple of games which she had dropped and is about to help her up when he unintentionally stares at Koph, because she was wearing a short skirt, and to his bad luck, he was holding his phone at the spot, making it seem to her that he was actually taking photos as well. The girl who notices this gets pissed off and takes his phone and proceeds to smash it on the floor. To top that, she slaps him hard enough that he falls and turns into a public embarrassment. At home, Yu's sisters are waiting for him as they have all seen what had happened to Yu earlier through social media. He had picked up dinner on the way and gives it to the elder sister Maya. As they are watching TV, we find that Yu's childhood friend's song has risen to #1 on the charts, and his sisters mock him, saying how different the two of them turned out although they used to be so close. It is revealed that Yu is addicted to the phone and that he spends most of his time on it. He is reminded that he has one of the games that the girl from the other day had dropped with him as she had forgotten it. The next day, he goes to a new school and looks for her. The search seems pointless until he goes to the roof to take some scenery pics. While he takes these pics, he notices that the girl from the other day is also there on top of a water tank. As he looked at her, the wind does its act and brings her skirt up for a bit, giving the illusion that Yu was taking more photos of her as he was holding his phone at her. She sees this and gets down and tries to get the phone from Yu, who resists and is drawn to a corner. While they wrestle for it, the phone falls off his hand down the roof to a bush. He runs off, saying it's a rental by the phone repair place. As he's searching for the phone, the girl comes around and tries to help him find it, possibly feeling bad for dropping the phone. They search for it but have no luck finding. Yu hands the CD that he had picked up the other day to the girl and also explains to her that he wasn't taking pictures of her. Yu comes home to find his sisters in bikinis as it was a warm day. He walks up to his room and realizes he has no phone and falls asleep. The next day at school, he introduces himself at his new class where the mystery girl is also there. Due to the expression she makes when he notices Yu, the teacher asks her whether she knows him, but she says she doesn't. As school has ended, Yu is walking home when he notices the girl outside the school who's seemingly being forced to do something. He can't help but go speak for her when he realizes that the boy was actually just trying to join her for the track team because the girl's father was a good athlete, and as he says, she's a thoroughbred. Embarrassed by what happened, he runs off to a corner and starts ranting about it to himself when the mystery girl comes and hands over his phone. She tells her it was because he handed over her CD, and as she is about to leave, she tells him her name. The girl's name is Fuka Akatsuki. The next day, we find Yu with 2 movie tickets to a romance flick. Fuka, who was nearby, notices that he has 2 movie tickets, asks him if he would like to go, as she really wanted to watch the movie since one of her favorite singers is doing the theme song. They decide to go watch the movie and are both on time but not able to find each other as Fuka doesn't use a cell phone. In desperation, Fuka gets on top of a pole and screams Yu's name in front of everyone, eventually allowing him to find her, and the two meet with a minor romantic scene where Fuka falls on top of him. As they wait in line for the movie, Fuka asks Yu to act like her boyfriend as they are giving special charms to couples. Yu, hesitant at first and barely able to hold Fuka's hand, gets the courage to hold her hand properly and do a convincing boyfriend act. The movie ends and they are walking home when Fuka hands over one of the matching charms to Yu. Yu tells her that it was for couples, and since they are not a couple, he shouldn't really have that. But surprisingly, Fuka tells him that they don't know that yet, proceeds to thank him for the date, and goes off. Yu, although shocked, finds peace in Fuka's personality. At night, Fuka is calling her parents. They are worried if she has not yet chosen what she wants to do with her life. She's not sure either, but her parents are fine with anything as long as she's happy. The next day at school, Yu is walking along the hallway when he notices that Fuka is crying, and he tries to understand why, and he sees a somewhat good-looking blonde boy. He assumes that Fuka likes him and is sad that there are many girls swooning over the guy, whose name's Mikasa. This fuels some jealousy in Yu as he keeps on judging the guy hard. Coincidentally, the teacher puts them together to clean the pool. While they are cleaning, he finds that Fuka and Mikasa gets along really well, which makes him somewhat jealous, but he hides it. Fuka suddenly comes up to Yu and starts trying to tell him how to properly brush the floor when she slips and gets her skirt wet. This reveals her panties as Yu stares sideways to avoid the repercussions of what could have happened. She goes to the changing room to change up, and in this time, Yu tells Mikasa that him and Fuka have a great relationship, to which he says they are pretty close. As they are done with the cleaning and Mikasa goes off to keep the brushes, Yu asks Fuka whether she likes Mikasa. She tells him that they are just friends and that Mikasa isn't actually interested in girls anyways. As they are walking home, Fuka reveals that she was crying because of a song and how good it was and asks Yu to listen to it as well. She tells her that it's not that nothing bothering her, and that the fact she can't decide what she wants to do bothers her far more. It's PT the next day as Fuka is clearly shown to be quite athletic, same as her dad. While Yu was watching her compete, Mikasa comes over and suggests that he should try to date Fuka as she clearly is drawn to him. At home, Yu receives a call from his childhood friend, Tama-chan, who is now a famous singer. She invites Yu to her next concert, but he had already made plans with Fuka to keep the Saturday free. Tama, who shows definite signs of interest in Yu, blushes over the fact that he said that she can call him from time to time. To his surprise, Fuka had actually asked him to keep the Saturday free as she was going to Tama's concert as well. Tama is a bit nervous before her big show and talks to her manager about how the songs had always been about Yu, which she had a crush on when she was young, and how she hopes that her voice will reach to him one day. Meanwhile, Yu and Fuka have got front row tickets to the concert. As Tama is about to sing, she notices that Yu has made it to the concert and starts singing. Although the songs were supposed to be sad songs, she sings them with a cheerful mood, as Fuka later brings up as well. After the concert ended, Fuka and Yu are walking home when Fuka decides to sing. Yu is mesmerized by her voice and tells her that maybe she is cut out for the music industry. She doesn't reply to this and walks off. At school, Fuka interrupts Yu, takes him out to a shrine where she asks him to wish that her dream comes true, while he prays as it will increase her chances of getting her dream to come true. She reveals that she has finally decided what she wants to do and tells him that she wants to make music. The day is new and Fuka has suddenly decided that she's not getting into music alone, but that they are getting to music. That is in both Mikasa and Yu. Yu, although hesitant, is dragged in as he doesn't want her to go alone, just with Mikasa obviously showing signs of jealousy. Fuka was a bit worried that her senior would be upset that she didn't participate in track as she had a knack for it, but Mikasa reassures her she made the right decision. In order to get their band equipment, they need money, and the senior suggests that they take up a part-time job over the vacation, which is working at a summer house. They all board the train the next day off to a summer house for the vacation. They make it to the summer house and meet an extremely cheery but working bug of a person, Mr. Yahaji. Yu at first sight deters that he's definitely his least favorite type of person. He shows them to their room, and on the way they notice that there's a set of drums, and when he's asked if he plays, he tells them that he hasn't played in a while. The next day the gang starts off work at the summer house. Fuka and Mikasa have no trouble getting adapted to the job as they are already looking like pros, but it wasn't the same story for Yu. His soft demeanor and voice made him go through hell while at work. This eventually frustrated Yahaji, who scolds him and tells him to take a break to get himself together, or he can leave. Fuka notices that Yu is down and is having thoughts of leaving, so she cheers him up by telling him that he can do anything if he tries enough. Fired up by Fuka's motivational speech, he goes back into work this time, though he works really efficiently, which makes Yahaji happy as well. He hears everyone's orders well and he raises his voice, which makes a great change. But at the end of the day, Yu is so burnt out that he is left to sleep on Fuka's lap. Meanwhile, we find that Tama-chan is on the way to the same place on a tour bus. She is overjoyed by the fact that she has some free time later in that evening, possibly to call Yu. Yu, on the other hand, is at the beach, and him and Mikasa have little talk about how Fuka is drawn to Yu as she doesn't treat others like she treats him. But the conversation is cut short as Mikasa rushes off saying he wants to fix a date as he saw Hot Lifeguard. Before he can move, Fuka arrives. She looks scrumptious in her bikini as Yu finds it hard to concentrate. They both swim around in the waters for a while and Yu gets a bit distracted, cough, brings them out a bit too far into the sea. The balloon holding them from drowning goes off due to the strong currents, and Fuka, whose leg gets cramped, is about to drown. Yu swims down and gets hold of Fuka's hand, effortlessly saving her life, but Yu almost drowns himself in the attempt to save Fuka. Back at the beach, we find Fuka giving mouth-to-mouth to Yu, who wakes up coughing water. She tells him that she was really worried and hugs him, clearly showing signs of affection towards him. Meanwhile, Tama is at a hotel and is obviously back at fantasizing about Yu. Back at the summer house, Yu is worked up over the kiss, I meant rescue breathing, that Fuka did on him and can't look her in the face. She sips a drink from Mikasa when he tells her that it's an indirect kiss. She tells him that it doesn't bother her, and it doesn't count since he's gay anyways. Yu is kind of off about her not bothering about their little kiss back at the beach when Fuka comes over and tells him it does bother her, and that he should keep it a secret as it was her first kiss. He promises to keep it a secret, and she's overjoyed. So as Yu, as he finds that he wasn't the only one self-conscious about it. Mikasa comes just as Fuka leaves and asks Yu what's up, but he keeps his promise and doesn't tell him. Yu is flustered about their little secret when Koyuki or Tama sends him a text asking whether they can meet up. They meet up nearby the beach, and it's a rainy day. The two of them have some light chatter and light up some fireworks. Meanwhile, Fuka is worried as to where Yu went and goes to look for her. Back at the beach, the wind gets stronger and Koyuki's umbrella is blown off, making her huddle with Yu. That's when Fuka walks in and is confused to see Koyuki with Yu. She walks off confused as hell, clearly jealous. Koyuki sees that Fuka reacted to this and clings onto Yu even more to make her get the idea that Yu is taken. As the rain settles, she backs off. Meanwhile, Fuka makes it back to the summer house and is pretty shook to the point that she tells Mikasa that she couldn't find him. Mikasa figures there's something wrong. The next day, Yu goes to explain to Fuka that she was misunderstanding what was actually going on. But Fuka is still mad that he didn't tell her sooner than him and Koyuki were friends. She keeps on ignoring him for a while, and this eaves Mikasa to ask her what happened between her and Yu. Although hesitant to say at first, she tells him that they had a little fight. Yu can't take it anymore and decides to go apologize to Fuka, as he tells her that he didn't tell her sooner since Koyuki was texting him through a private account, and that he was worried she would leak it to the public and cause trouble for Koyuki. He further explains how they were childhood friends and were just reuniting after a long time. Fuka is insulted by the fact that he thinks she would leak such information and walks off again and locks herself in a room. Early next morning, we find that the seniors from school have arrived at the summer house to see how they were doing. Well, Nashi came to try to convince her to come back to the track team. It's revealed that the band that Fuka and Yu have been idolizing, the Hedgehogs members, were the seniors and also Yahaji, who barely uses the drums anymore. Fuka and Yu are mad that Yahaji didn't tell them sooner, and that they would have asked way more questions if that was the case. Fuka, still actively being mad at Yu, tells that they will someday be a band like the Hedgehogs. Nashi, the track team senior, tells her that it's not an easy task to excel in music and is demoralizing her when Yu steps up for her and tells him that her singing is really good and that she will definitely make it. One of the seniors who's drunk tells her that they should test her out, and that leads them to get ready for some singing. Yahagi hands an electric guitar which belonged to one of the band members named Nico, who had quit. He is hesitant to use it as he has never used a guitar before, but Yahaji reassures it's not that hard and teaches him what he should do. Mikasa, on the other hand, asks him to come and speak to him in private for a while. He gets Yu to talk about how bad it is for him when Fuka is mad at him, how everything sucks without her. This is pretty much an indirect confession, as Fuka is hiding behind the door listening to it. After Yu tells how he feels, Mikasa tells him that Fuka also felt the same way and that it was good that she heard it directly from him. They both make up and apologize to each other. They are all ready to start singing as Yu is ready with the guitar as well. The song starts and everyone is surmised by how well Fuka can sing. This attracts the nearby people who had come to the beach, and even Koyuki, who gets a dash of nostalgia as she hears this cover of a Hedgehog's song. By the end of the song, Fuka is overjoyed as she did really well and even get approved by Yahaji, who was a pro. Nashi, although not very happy about it, still liked the song quite a lot. As Mikasa points out, he was also tapping along with the rhythm. He tells her that it was habit he had from when he played drums, which leads her to decide that he will be the drummer in their band. Their band is pretty much complete by now, and so is summer vacation coming to an end. It's their last day at the summer house, and Yu notices that Fuka is out at the beach watching the stars. He joins her, and they share a cute moment where Yu shares his hoodie with her as it's cold, and she's wearing a skinny. They are about to leave when Yu falls over Fuka, resulting in somewhat of a scene where our boy Yu gets slapped for being an unintentional pervert. As they return back home, Yu finds out that Koyuki lives close by to him, and they both have a little reuniting session where they go over some old albums with photos of each other. Yu explains that Koyuki used to always yell at him, and Koyuki tells him that it was because he was such a crybaby back then. Yu reveals that he liked Koyuki back then, and this leaves her to walk out of embarrassment, but later overjoyed over the fact that her love isn't one-sided. School has started, and since Nachi is hanging around the Mikasa, often rumor spreads that Nachi himself is also gay. Fuka joins the party and they talk about how great of a vacation they had, and she sees a flashback of what they did, the little secret. The other two are confused as to what happened, but they all rush to the canteen regardless. Once they are done getting the food, they go over to the canteen where they meet a peculiar girl who looks like a supermodel with a mean face. Fuka thinks she looks great while Yu finds her scary. The team assembles as the Hedgehog studio and have their first practice sesh, and Yu plays the guitar and clearly shows how bad he is at it. They say that with practice, he will be good enough and continue. The Spec Senior says that Yu was doing it his first time, but that Nashi and Mikasa have used those instruments before. Before they could go on further, two guys come at the door and tell the Spec Senior that his sister is being fired from her band. His sister is revealed to be the mean-looking girl from the cafeteria. Fuka, overjoyed by the fact that she's a really good guitarist, asks her to join their band. She tells her that she would love to, and her name is Sarah, revealed by her brother, who scolds her for hitting Yu, who accidentally finds his face planted in her melons. Over at the band practice, Sarah is mad at Yu as he's being quite a dumbass when it comes to the guitar, since he's still only a beginner. She tells him to give up already, which receives backlash from her brother, but they go on anyway. By the end of the practice, the gang decides to go over to a family restaurant where they plan on celebrating their first band practice. They all discuss on a song they should do, and Sarah gives her feedback telling how hard it is to play the song it is. After a while, Fuka, Mikasa, and Nachi leave for different reasons, leaving you all alone with Sarah. Yu is awkward, or rather scared, and gets on Twitter and tweets about how he's in a cafe with a mean-looking girl. He gets a retweet from someone called Admiral, who is a longtime follower or rather friend of Yu on Twitter. After she sends him a photo of exactly what Sarah had ordered, it is revealed that Sarah was the Admiral user. Sarah has a sudden change of emotions as she is extremely happy to have met Yu. On the way back, she apologizes for her behavior from earlier and clearly shows signs that she is crushing on Yu. They walk home with Sarah ranting about almost everything that happened to her in her life. Fuka and the rest of the band members are getting quite pumped as they are all getting ready for band practice. The next day, Yu gets the guitar and rushes to practice. On the way, he finds people staring at him, which gives him anxiety. Sarah arrives just about then and tells him that it's fine and that it gives him a musician vibe. This makes him get all shy as he runs off. When they make it to the studio, they are disappointed to find that it's all booked up and that they won't be able to have practices. Nachi tells them that he knows a place and takes them all over to his place, where they go to the garage to find that Nachi is in fact dedicated about drumming. He tells them that he didn't tell them about this place sooner, as they would then know that he was actually into drumming as well and that he was actually quite a softie even though he acts cold around school. They play a song and realize that they have gotten much better after the addition of Sarah to their team. Fuka goes over to tell Yu how good he has become, and this brings Sarah to get a little jealous as she knocks Fuka away from him. They have a little convo and they realize that they can play 3 songs perfectly, so they believe that they will be able to play in a school fair that will be up around in 2 months. Koyuki, on the other hand, is performing at her own studio, and the producers realize that she's not on par with her usual self. She also knows this and is quite upset about it. Her manager tries to reassure her, but her thoughts deep in how it's exactly how it was when she was kids, how she had to go away from Yu. Flashback to when Koyuki and Yu were young. The two of them are seen to be playing every day, exploring sewers and whatever they could find. Koyuki and Yu have quite the chemistry, as Yu is somewhat a crybaby, but still is able to stand up for Koyuki when she needs him. It's shown that Koyuki's family life wasn't really nice. In fact, it was living hell for a child. Her father is shown to be a cheater, and since he comes home late, her mom and dad are always fighting. Due to that, she prefers staying away from home and with Yu as much as she possibly can. Yu tells her that the next time it snows they will make a snowman, and overjoyed by this, Koyuki starts singing a song by the Hedgehogs. Yu tells her that he loves hedgehogs as well, and that since Koyuki can sing so well they both should make a band someday, and that Yu will be like Nico to Tama from the band Hedgehogs. Nico being the guitarist and Tama being the vocalist, Yu and Koyuki decide to call each other Yu and Tama and makes a promise to each other that they would make snowmen together. The following day it snows and Koyuki is not herself as she walks away from Yu without making a snowman. It's revealed that her father left her and that Koyuki and her mother would be leaving to Koyuki's grandfather's place the next day. She's struck by grief the whole day as she lay crying all alone, and Yu, who sees her all alone coming back, drags her and shows her to a place where he had made 2 snowmen. She breaks down without explaining to Yu as to why and has to leave Yu without saying goodbye. Back in the present, we find Koyuki, who's at Yu's door, trying to meet him. Yu, who comes from school, sees her, and they both go in. She tells him that she's having a concert soon and would love for him to be there at the concert. He tells her that he didn't contact her after that day because he thought she was mad at him. This makes her mad, and she tells him that she will be fine if he comes to her concert. When Yu is asked as to what he's doing, he tells her about the band and brags a bit about Fuka, which makes Koyuki a bit jealous, and this prompts her to leave. They both renew their promise to each other, where they had promised to perform on stage together one day. On her way back, Koyuki say drenched by mud water from a passing car as it was raining. Fuka, who sees this on her way, notices it Koyuki and takes her over to her place to get her cleaned up. Since Fuka lives near a bathhouse, they get in the bath and clean each other, both checking each other out. Well, mostly Koyuki, as she wants to know if she's better than her, obviously, for Yu. After that, Fuka asks Koyuki how she gets inspiration for her music and how she can write songs like her. She tells her that her songs do not match Fuka's vibe and that she should go for something more joyous. Fuka tells her that her songs have everything in them as Koyuki puts all of her effort into them. She tells her that she writes her songs from having memories of the person she's in love with, although it is one-sided. Fuka tells that she wishes it would all go right for her, clearly not knowing that it was about Yu. The band is done with a practice session and Yu and Fuka are heading home together. Fuka tells Yu about how cool Koyuki is and plans to do really well in the coming school fair. The next day, Yu wakes up to a photo of him with Koyuki all blown up on Twitter, even going to the point that Yu is verified. This means he will always be questioned by almost everyone as he makes his way into the classroom. He notices that everyone has questions for him, well, everyone except Fuka, who wanders off. Same scenario for Koyuki, as her manager warns her that she should make sure to keep her private contacts a bit under the radar, as this kind of thing affects her emotionally as well. She tells her that they are just friends, and the public is more or so calmed down by this news. Meanwhile, Yu goes to try and find Fuka, who is mad at Yu for not telling her that him and Koyuki had met. He tells her that they are just friends and that she only came to meet and be given tickets to her next concert. Fuka is mad but decides to let it go, as they have a concert coming up and they should really be mad at each other at that time. Things are going crazy as Koyuki goes onto a talk show and reveals that she is in fact the person who is in that photo, and that all her songs that she had written up until now were all about Yu. She further explains that they are not dating, but rather just friends. Yu is quite shaken by the new revelation, but decides to go on as his band cheers him up and tells him that although it was quite surprising, it doesn't mean that he has to be depressed. This cheers him up, and they promise to give their best at the performance the following day. Meanwhile, Nashi, the leader of the band picked by Fuka, is stressed over the next day, but keeps it together as he is the band's leader. As for Koyuki's confession, it's blowing up all over social media, where fans are in two states, some hating on Yu and others wanting to know more about him. Sarah, who notices this, wants to protect her band members, whom she holds very dear to her, and asks her brother how to do that. He tells her to shut them up with her guitar play. Meanwhile, all this is happening, we find Yu still overthinking about what had happened, when Maya, the older sister, tells him that even if no one shows up, he will have 3 fans who support him to the max, that being his sisters. Yu is more than determined to do great the next day as he is about to head off. The day of the school fair is here, and Koyuki, who is in a disguise, makes sure to be there as it's Yu's first performance, and she wouldn't want to miss it for the world. She notices that the crowd gathered at the school fair are mostly guys who are jealous of Yu, and she realizes she made a huge mistake by confessing on live TV. Yu is getting nervous backstage, but fights it off and decides to give the best performance he can as they head off onto the stage. They are about to perform when they are being badmouthed from the crowd. They want Yu to apologize and beg on his knees. When they start singing, Yu gets hit by a bottle, and this breaks his bass guitar. This causes a ruckus in the crowd as Yu's sister fights with one of the attackers. With all the ruckus going on, Koyuki decides to show that she's there and scolds everyone to stop attacking him. This leads all the toxic Koyuki fans to come swarm her. They find a new bass guitar and they start playing. Everyone sees how well the band is playing and gets distracted from the anger they had against Yu. The hedgehogs, while finding stuff to improve, clearly see that they have grown well as a band. Just from the first song, Saidun, Fuka sees Koyuki and invites her on stage to perform with them. Yu is a bit hesitant at first, but they go on with it anyways as she starts performing in front of everyone. After the performance, Koyuki takes some time and apologizes to everyone about her live confession, and also tells to leave Yu and his family alone as it's not their fault. Post-performance, everyone goes back to their favorite family restaurant where they try to decide on a band name. They end up deciding on the band name as Fallen Moon as it relates to Fuka's name. All through this, we find Koyuki going through a hard time as her managers are not happy about her acting on her own. This leads her to avoid Yu for a while, as they had advised her to stay away from him for a while. She goes on to cancel TV appearances as well. She keeps on ignoring Yu's calls as well. While she's training for a big Christmas concert, she loses her voice for a bit, and this leaves her being really disappointed as she cannot do well for her fans. Throughout the whole scenario, we find that she's constantly ignoring Yu. It is then announced that Koyuki is going on a hiatus for a while as her voice is lost, and according to the doctor's advice, she should not sing for a while. Finally, the Koyuki answers her phone and tells Yu that she is fine, but Yu, clearly understanding she isn't fine, making his way through a train to the same place where they had reunited, and finds her staring at the ocean. She says that she is sorry for loving him, and before she could do anything else, Yu hugs her tightly. After this, Yu and Koyuki start hanging out more often than earlier. They go around a village where Koyuki had previously filmed one of her song visuals. There's a bell in this village. It rings 4 times a day, and Koyuki tells Yu that a couple who hears that L will be with each other for their whole life. She holds Yu's hand while the bell rings, making Yu blush all over. She jokes that she is joking, but Yu is unsure, but they go on. These dates continue as Yu and Koyuki are getting food and all of that. After their whole date, Yu realizes that he's late for band practices and rushy to make it in time. He makes it at Nachi's garage and sees that Fuka is actually not mad at him for being late. Nachi jokes that it's understandable as to why he's late if he was on a date, and throughout all this, Fuka seems unaffected. Possibly because she promised Koyuki that she would support her love life in any way she can. Hayashi, the Spec Senior, has got them a chance to perform live with a couple of other bands, and they are all pumped and ready for it. After the band practice, they find themselves in the same family restaurant, and Fuka proposes an idea of them doing an original song which Fuka is going to write herself. Everyone is hesitant at first, but they decide that Fuka might be onto something and they let her do her thing. Out of the blue, Yu gets a call from his supposed girlfriend now, Koyuki, and he goes outside to take the call. While he is calling her, we find Fuka, who comes outside and sees him in a call and understands he's on a call with Koyuki, and although it hurts her, she keeps it to herself. Back at home, Fuka is trying to write the song, and she's humming it out and trying to come up with the lyrics. All she could think of is Yu and how she wants him too. The next day, she shows the band her melody she made, and everyone likes it, but she has not still come up with the lyrics for the song. Although she definitely knows what she wants to say, she's still not sure whether she should, as she promised Koyuki that she will support her love no matter what. Fuka wakes up to a surprising idea that she has been scouted out by a producer and that she could actually go pro. But there's a catch: she can't take her band with her, and she has to sing alone. She rejects this idea and goes on. On her way back, she sees Yu with Koyuki, and this flusters her heart up quite bad. She walks into band practice kind of shook. Yu joins the party in a few minutes, and Fuka can't help but frown sadly. Her lyrics aren't still done, and she can't understand what she's going through. Yu tells her it's fine and not to stress herself, not knowing that the reason why she is sad is because of him not being hers. She yells at him and then quickly shuffles the moment into something else. Yu calls Koyuki, and they talk about their song. He tells her that Fuka is still having trouble with her lyrics and asks whether she could help. She tells him that it doesn't work like that and that all her songs were made out of the feelings she had for him, and that she wouldn't be much of a help to Fuka anyways. Yu understands that Fuka is feeling off about something and dials her up and asks her if anything's wrong. She doesn't really tell it. She finally comes to realization later onwards that she's actually in love with Yu, and that's why she has all these pent-up feelings. She finishes the lyrics and lets the gang hear it the following day, and they all love it. It's the day of the concert, and everyone's prepped for the whole concert, as Mikasa goes to the extent that he leaves his home as his father threatens to disown him. Making a surprise appearance, the Hedgehogs band's vocalist and guitarist Tama and Nico comes to see the concert. Fuka almost getting caught up in an accident while she tries to pick up the key tag him and Yu shared on the zebra crossing frantically makes it, and they are all set for the performance. They start off and impress all the Hedgehog members as they perform their songs. Tama and Nico are really impressed as well. We find Koyuki coming to the concert in between and is really overjoyed by Yu playing well. Fuka tells the crowd that it's their last song for the night, and this one is an original, and they start off the song. Koyuki instantly understands that the lyrics in the songs are for Yu, and everyone in the crowd loves the song anyways. After the concert, everyone is really happy with how they did and are even signed up for another concert soon. That's when Fuka tells everyone that she's leaving the band as she's being scouted by a good producer, and that she's taking a decision to follow her dreams. In reality, it's all because of the fact that being in the same band with Yu is killing her, as she's in love with him but can't have him. The next day, it seems all over as Fuka is making contracts with the producer, and this also leaves the rest of the band to break up. Nachi getting back into the track team and Sarah trying to sub for some other bands. Koyuki comes to meet Yu, and after a little convo where she tries to get with Yu for some action on the bed where he refuses, she understands that Yu truly doesn't love her but loves Fuka, and they break up on good terms as Koyuki leaves the room. Yu gets a writing pad and decides he's not giving up on the band as he starts writing lyrics for a song with all his feelings in it. The next day, he hands a CD to each and every member of the band from earlier in hopes that they would get it to heart and decide to regroup the band. He waits for them at their usual family restaurant, and everyone except Fuka comes. They decide to restart the band, and they go on and start making the music that they really love in Nachi's garage, hoping Fuka will come around. As for Koyuki, Yu thanks her for making Yu understand his true feelings and is sad that Koyuki is sad about it, but she reassures him she's fine. Yu keeps on visiting Fuka's house every night as Fuka continues to ignore him as she hasn't still listened to the CD and doesn't know that Yu has realized his true feelings and that they were his feelings for Fuka. Fuka feels bad for ignoring Yu, but she has no choice as she can't be around Yu. The next day, while Fuka is outside, she meets Koyuki, who tells her that Yu and her broke up. She tells that Fuka's song made her feelings clear and that she should be honest with herself. Back at the band practice, we find that Yu is still determined to bring Fuka back as he goes to try again, encouraged by the band members. He goes and finds that Fuka hasn't still arrived home, so he waits. The day has come for their next performance, and under the request of Yu promising to bring back Fuka in time, they wait for their turn. Yu finds Fuka at the top of the water tank at school, and they confess that they love each other. They both hug. It's almost time for the performance as Fuka and Yu makes it in time. She apologizes to everyone for leaving the band, and they tell her that it's fine and that she should perform Yu's song now. They are all set as they get up on stage and perform a majestic performance. Fuka tells everyone about how their band formed, all from the idea that Yu gave Fuka as he was the one who encouraged her to pursue music. As Fuka sings, all you could do was admire her and her grace and wanting to keep on making music together forever.